morning, Jim.
Hello. Benevolent dictatorship. Nope.
All right. We're being recorded. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Longmeadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contains selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. We are on page 469. Okay, Tetzaveh chapter 6. Let me get the screen. Okay. Ready. There are several kinds of sacrifices in the Beis Hamikdash. An olah is where the entire animal is burned on the altar. A shlomim is where some meat goes to the owner. The breast and thigh go to the kohen, and the rest is burned on the altar. Okay. Both can be. Okay, I'm going to say this. I can't write it. Both of those, they can be either required. Some are required by the Torah. Some are, and some can be done voluntary. A person can volunteer to bring an olah, which gets totally burnt, a shlomim, which some meat goes back to the kohen and some to the owners. And then there is a third kind that's a chatas. Chatas is if the person commits a sin unintentionally. Okay, I forget the word. Person commits a sin unintentionally, then inadvertently. Thank you. Then certain sins for inadvertent. Then the person has to bring a chatas, and the chatas is also burned on the altar. Okay, Jim, are you ready?
Sure.
So begin 469. You will
take the breast of Aaron's installation ram and lift it up as a lifting offering before God. It will then be his portion to eat. You will thus sanctify the breast of the lifting offering and the leg of the elevation offering, which were lifted and elevated from the installation ram, from among what was given to Aaron and his sons. And it shall be an everlasting law regarding Aaron and his sons, for it is an elevation offering, and it shall be an elevation offering from the Israelites, from their peace offerings, their elevation offering to God. In other words,
oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In other words, priests are given the breast and the leg of every peace offering, shalamim, as their due. In contrast, they do not receive any portion of the sin offering.
Thanks. The Kohen himself corresponds to Ze'er Anpin, and the Choshen corresponds to Nukva. The Choshen is worn on his chest, on the chest of the Kohen Gadol, actually. A few chapters ago, we learned that the Choshen corresponds to Ze'er Anpin. Here it says Nukva. Relative to the ephod, the Choshen is Ze'er Anpin. Relative to the Kohen, the Choshen is Nukva. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
The priest who merited the peace offering alludes to the supernal priest, Ze'er Anpin. The priest is attired in the breastplate of judgment, which is the embodiment of Nukva, and he wears this over his chest. Elsewhere, we have seen that the breastplate, Choshen, signifies Ze'er Anpin relative to the ephod, which signifies Nukva. But here, relative to the priest himself, who signifies Ze'er Anpin, the breastplate signifies Nukva.
Okay. 3. The names of the 12 tribes were engraved on the 12 stones of the Choshen. All the letters of the Aleph Beis are counted except for 2, Ches and Tes. So on the names of the tribes include 20 of the letters of the Aleph Beis. There are 2 missing, Ches and Tes, and the names are engraved on the stones of the Choshen. These 2 letters spell Chet, which means sin, which means that the Choshen does not represent the sin offering. It corresponds to the offerings that bring peace between Hashem and man, the Shlamim, of which the breast and thigh are given to the Kohen to eat.
Mhm. The names of the 12 tribes are engraved on the stones of the breastplate in order to indicate that his offering is not to atone for sin, but for peace. The names of the 12 tribes were engraved on the 12 precious stones of the breastplate. These 12 names contain all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet except for the letters Chet and Tet, which are the main consonantal letters of the word for sin. Chet, Chet, Tet, Aleph. The fact that the priest wears this breastplate then serves to indicate that his service in the temple is primarily not to atone for sin, but to bring peace into the world. Therefore, the lower...
4. Since the Choshen is worn on the chest of the Kohen Gadol and it symbolizes peace, the Kohen receives the breast of a Shlamim offering, because the Shlamim now corresponds to the Choshen.
Right. Therefore, the lower priest merits receiving the breast of the peace offering. The lower human priest is an earthly manifestation of the supernal priest, Zeir Anpin.
Okay?
Right.
All right. Screen sharing is stopped. The window closed. I didn't do that.
That's
Oh, yeah.
Windows. It's Windows. Just restart it.
No, we're on live stream. We're on YouTube still. Let's go to here. Now we want 7. Okay. One of the services in the Beis HaMikdash was to offer the daily incense called Ketoret. The Ketoret was offered by a Kohen on the inside altar that was gold-plated, a half mana in the morning and a half mana in the afternoon. Another service was to light the menorah every evening with pure, sediment-free olive oil. The Torah says the Ketoret, that's the incense, is offered when the lamps of the menorah are cleaned and when they are lit.
Mhm.
Okay, Jim, go ahead, chapter 7.
The incense in the menorah. Aaron will burn spice incense upon the incense altar every day. He shall burn it when he cleans out the lamps of the menorah. When Aaron kindles the lamps of the menorah in the evening, he will burn it again. It is a continual incense offering before God for all generations. Thus, the incense is offered in conjunction with and after tending the lamps of the menorah. The Arizal discusses why this is so.
Okay, number 2. When Zeir Anpin receives intellect from Ima, it is called Ketores. When Zeir Anpin receives intellect from Abba, it's called oil. You guys okay with that? When Ima, Bina, shines into Zeir Anpin, into the emotions, it's called Ketores. When Abba, which is Chachma, shines into Zeir Anpin, the emotions, it's called oil. In other words, offering Ketores, the incense, represents Zeir Anpin. Represents Zeir Anpin connecting with the intellect of Ima, Bina. Lighting the menorah represents Zeir Anpin connecting with the intellect of Abba and Chachma. That's okay. Next lines.
Now, when Zeir Anpin receives mentality of Ima, this state of reality is called incense. While when he receives the mentality of Abba, this is called oil.
Okay, thanks. The next thing I did not understand well, and I sent a message to Rabbi Wisniewski for clarification. Hopefully I'll get something back. In what way is oil similar to Abba and Chachma? Chachma refers to the core of an idea that has not been analyzed or developed. Ina, on the other hand, is a process that analyzes the idea. In order to accept a new idea, a person has to put aside his own biases and assumptions. He has to achieve a state of rest, a still mind. When the sacrifices were offered on the outdoor altar by the Kohen, the Levites accompanied with music and song. But the Ketoret was offered in the stillness of the altar indoors, where there was no accompanying music or song. So what it's saying is, and I think I stopped with the explanation because I got really stuck here. It says oil is like Chachma because apparently because Chachma is stillness. You need to have a quiet mind to be able to absorb the idea. Oil is lit indoors in the Beis Hamikdash. Outdoors, they had music going. Indoors, things are very quiet and still. So oil is like Chachma. But what he says is that the Ketores is done inside without song. So I don't know. It's not clear to me what's going on. Okay, but go ahead, Jim. We'll read inside. Maybe it makes sense to you and you can explain to me.
To explain, oil is experienced in silence, as mentioned in Zohar. Abba is also experienced in silence. Thus, it is referred to as thought, which is experienced in silence. The inner dimension of Chachma is self-abnegation bittul, which, as we have explained, means that in order to receive a new insight, a person must abandon all his sense of self, emptying his consciousness of any preconceived notions about reality. Only then does this vacuum draw new insight into the mind. This state of selflessness is here termed silence because the individual is expressing his lack of anything to say, his inability to make sense of reality with his present worldview. In contrast, Bina is an exercise of self-awareness. The individual goes about integrating new insight into his previous worldview, adjusting them to new revelations of the insight, using them to purify the insight from any admixture of impurities. Whereas the sacrificial service was conducted in open air, accompanied by the Song of Levites, the burning of the incense was conducted inside the temple, out of public view, with no musical accompaniment. The difference highlights the distinction between the priests and the Levites in general. The former exercising Chachma, the latter Bina. The priests remained silent even while offering the sacrifices to the Levites' musical accompaniment. Here the contrast occurs, here the contrast between Chachma and Bina occurs within the priestly service. I think I'm getting that Chachma obviously is a selfless state, and that is a silent state. and that the level of Bina that's expressed here in terms of Ketorah is a state of not selflessness, but self-awareness, but it's the beginning of that self-awareness. And it's an integration of this new insight with the previous worldview, but it's still done in a in a kind of silence. I mean, because it's done inside. I'm a little confused. I understand sacrificial service, that we have the Song of Levites. Clearly, the priests are doing the cleaning of the menorah, the oil, and the Ketoret, lighting of the incense. So their act is in a silent or higher level than what takes place on the outside. That I get it a little bit, but I'm not sure what. So, because burning was conducted inside, out of public view, so both are done in silence. One is with more of a mixture and a more self-consciousness. Then and this is done by the Kohanim. And it's yes, and Chokmah Bina occurs within the priestly service. So I think they're both in a type of silence.
I wonder if you meant to write, instead of saying burning the incense on the second line on 471, if you meant to write the lighting the menorah was then inside, out of public view, with no musical accompaniment. I don't know.
I don't know, because the incense is offered as part of the cleaning of or the tending of the lamps. So I'm not sure.
Yeah,
and it's offered inside too.
Then he says
Outside of-
oil is experienced in silence, as mentioned in Zohar, and Abbas, but he doesn't say about Ketoras.
It doesn't say it.
Not.
But
In the bold.
It doesn't say it. It just it doesn't say it at all. It doesn't even talk about Ketoret in the bold.
I would say that I am flummoxed.
I don't know.
Okay. 4. The relationship between Chachma and Bina is also compared to the relationship between heaven and earth. Since oil is connected with Chachma, and that means that Chachma is heaven, Bina is earth. Since oil is connected with Chachma, it fits that the gematria of Shemen, oil, is the same as Shamayim, heaven.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Zeranpin is termed heaven for the word for which Shemayim has the same numerical value as the word for oil, Shemen. Shemayim, Shin Mem, Yud Mem, 300 plus 40 plus 10 plus 40, 390. Shemen, Shin Mem, Nun, 30 plus 40 plus 50, 390. Here, Abba and Ima are contrasted as heaven and earth. The abstract male mentality of Abba is termed heaven. Concrete female mentality of Ima is termed earth.
Okay. Next. 4, 5. As we said, both Abba and Ima influence Zeranpin. Abba and Ima correspond to oil and Ketoras. Zeranpin corresponds to the heart and the emotions. This gives new insight to the verse in Proverbs, Shemen uktoras yisamach lev. Oil and Ketoras gladden the heart, which means Chachma and Bina influence Zeranpin.
This is the mystical meaning of the verse, oil and incense gladden the heart. When Abba and Ima are both present in the mentality of Zeranpin, they can couple and produce their offspring, the emotions of the heart. And that's when Abba and Ima are together. So it's the higher form of flow, which comes through the connection of the incense and the oil together at that level, and the flow is benevolent. It gladdens.
Yes. Yep. And that's what he's going to go on to say. Chachma and Bina are actually called in Zohar two friends that never separate. They work as partners to produce and influence their Ampin. This is why the Ketores was offered at the same time the oil of the menorah was cleaned and lit.
Right. So the
So
kindling,
oil and Ketores go together like Chachma and Bina.
yes, when they are together, and they're always ultimately together in the supernal way. If we can get it into Zeranpin from that place, that's part of what we've been working for.
Yes.
The kindling of the lamps and the offering the incense were therefore performed at the same time. They performed together in order for the union to occur. For the purpose of enhancing our divine consciousness is to produce an emotional response that in turn fuels action. For the purpose of life is to make this world into a home for God, as we've seen previously.
Okay. Next thing also is not so clear to me, but not as bad as the other one. 7. First, the undeveloped intellect of Abba enters Zerampin. This is followed by the 6 extremities, which is usually another name for Zerampin, of the developed intellect of Ima. Therefore, the Kohen would first clean the lamps from the old oil, Chachma, and only then offer the Ketores of Bina. Only then can the mind accept the developed intellect of Chachma and analyze it with Bina. Did I combine two? I combined two. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now the enveloping lights of the immature mentality of Abba enter Zeranpin first. They're followed by the 6 extremities of the mature mentality of Ima. An enveloping light is an inspiration that encourages action in a specific direction, but does not affect a person in an ongoing way. When a person receives a new insight, it affects him, first of all, in this way, inspiring him to change himself. However, in order for this change to occur, the person must activate his analytical mind, Ima, in order to integrate this insight, as we said above. If he does not do this, the ephemeral flash of insight, having no commonality with his present mentality, will simply disappear and be forgotten. This is why they would clean out the lamps of the menorah first, and only then burn the incense, for the latter signifies the entrance of the mentality of Ima, and subsequently the full, mature mentality of Abba into their Anpin. Presumably, this means that cleaning out the menorah expresses the immature mentality of Abba. This act refers to emptying the mind of yesterday's oil. And this mentality, that is the mentality produced by previous insights. This makes way for new insight to enter the mind. First is immature, undeveloped flash of insight that appears and challenges. Next step is the development of this inspiration, immature Abba, by the analytical mind, Ima. After the mentality of Ima has done this, the mind can assimilate the pure insight of mature Abba in all its intensity. Presumably, this is the significance of lighting the menorah in the evening. This is followed again by burning the incense, which presumably signifies the integration of full insight, mature Abba, by the analytical mind.
Okay. All right, thanks. Now, at this point, a new text from the Arizal is quoted. The verse states, Ketores v'shemen yisamchu lev. This is a little different than the other one. It's written differently. Tiferes umalchus. I'm sorry, I'm reading the Hebrew. The verse states, Ketores v'shemen yismachu lev, incense and oil gladden the heart. Earlier, the Arizal said these refer to Chachma and Bina. In this text, he says they refer to the male and female components of the emotions, Zerampin and Nukva. The temple service of incense and oil cause Zerampin and Nukva to interact. In human terms, an expression of love.
Mhm. So oil and incense gladden the heart. This refers to the union between Tiferet and Malchus. The kindling of the menorah and the burning of incense can cause love between them. As we know, Tiferet and Malchus refer to Partzafim of Zeranpin and Nukva. Just as in the previous passage, the menorah and the incense alluded to the higher male-female pair Abanima, here they allude to the lower male-female pair Zeranpin and Nukva. Performing the two rites together unites the two parts of theme.
Okay, and that we've had a lot of. So here it says, Shemen uktores yisamach lev. And in the first text, that's how it's quoted. In this text, on 471 is quoted the way it is in Mishlei, and 472, it's not quoted the correct way. It is, I guess, paraphrased. There are two differences. In the Ketores comes before Shemen in the second way, and also will gladden is the plural instead of the singular. Okay, this is why the Medrash teaches that Ketores is greater than animal offerings, because the Ketores represents the Nukva, and that's the interaction between Zerampin and Nukva.
Right. So, therefore, incense is considered to be greater than all other
Did
sacrifices.
you skip one? Or you did that?
No, I did the one above it. Oil and incense.
Let me do 10 also.
Okay.
10. In human terms, interaction between male and female is an expression of love. The initials of the four words from this passage, Es Haneros Bein Harbayim, when Aaron lights the candles in the afternoon, spells Ahava, love.
Beautiful. Okay, therefore, the incense is considered to be greater than all other sacrifices. And the initials of the word for lamps in the evening, beautiful, spell the word for love, for it causes love between Zerampin and Nukva. The words for lamps in the evening from the verse cited above are et haneriot ben harbayim. The initials of these words are Aleph, Hey, Beit, Hey, which spell Ahava, the word for love.
And the last one?
Since the priest is rooted in Chesed, he's the one who does this. We just had learned how the priest has to deal with Tsaras and the Mitzvah.
Yes.
And this is exactly the same idea that we keep going back to be disciples of Aaron, because Aaron, the priest, as opposed to Levite or whatever, is the one who loves peace, brings love to all of the Jewish people, all the creatures, and it is rooted in Chesed here.
And so he is. And he declares
either your pure or impure, whether you have saras or not. And he is the only one who could do it, because he is the one who is who brings peace to the community.
Because if you're gonna tell people they're impure or declare them impure, you gotta be a person of chesed.
You got to be right from chesed. You can't be from gevurah to declare them impure.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Ay, ay, ay. And okay. So let me stop the first let me stop the share.